Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to Know Your Gear Live QA podcast. That's a lot to say. Episode 267. That's right, 267 episodes so far and going and going and going. Hey everyone that joined, and to all the moderators. I see Amanda, I see Grumpy Mike Guitar, I saw Unfreaking Believable, and I saw Matt Harrison. Let's see. And I thought I saw one other. Ben Coombs. And if I missed anyone, I apologize. I'm looking real quick. And I think that's it. And if I missed you, I apologize. I'll try to scoop it up later and give you a shout out. Okay, we have a lot of stuff to talk about this week. I have a lot of stuff to talk about this week. It's Father's Day this weekend. A lot of you probably have a great reason to buy a piece of gear that you don't need but want. And I will be traveling on Sunday. If you, we talked about that last week. Why I'm traveling, but I'm traveling on Sunday. I will be traveling almost all day, from like 4 in the morning until at least the late afternoon. So that will be my Father's Day, but we're celebrating a little early, so we'll be fine. And I see a lot of questions, and I pinned some cool questions, and we have some subjects to talk about. I'm just debating on what I should kind of touch on first. And I think what I'm going to touch on first before we get started is a couple things. Something I want to let you guys know about that's going on in the internet. And one of the things that's going on in the internet is Reverb has started a petition to basically lobby Congress to raise the rate of sales on the 1099s from $600 to $20,000 or 200 transactions per calendar year. Why is this important? Well, a couple of reasons. One, first of all, let's talk about this. Reverb is starting to feel a little bit of the burn of the fact that a lot of sellers are not very interested in having to worry about legal documentation to sell a piece of gear that you're not even sure what you paid for it before. And a lot of you are just not really happy with that. And that's not a Reverb policy, obviously. That was the government policy, and then Reverb has to enforce it. But Reverb is asking you to sign a petition. I have a link down below. You can do the petition or not. It's up to you. I'm just letting you know about it. I'm not even advocating for it or against it. I'm just letting you guys know about it. I know this is a concern for a lot of the community because it's one more annoying thing to deal with. Yes, Joe Harvey says $600 is a joke. It's a joke. It is a joke. It's an insane amount. The idea, as you guys know, I love stand-up comedy. Mitch Hedberg, who passed away, had a great bit that I'm probably going to mess up right now for you guys, where he said, I once bought a coffee and the lady handed me a receipt and he said, I don't think this interaction needs a document trail. And he goes, I don't see a point in the day where I'm going to have to prove to somebody that I got a coffee. He might have said donut, but you get the idea. He's like, did you buy a coffee? Prove it. So, and that's the joke. And that essentially is this joke. I don't see the point, like a lot of you, why we have to now bring the government and taxes into an equation of just hundreds of dollars. And a big problem is like I said, it's hard to keep this paperwork straight. So they are doing that. They are basically trying to change those amounts. Let's go back to it. Hold on a second. And here it is. Okay, so like I said, in this, I put a link, and then of course you can see where you go. You can share a story, or you can just fill out the stuff. Again, that's up to you. And it's obviously worth the cause for a lot of reasons, but it's up to you guys. The other thing that was worth talking about, since we're talking about that, is I don't know if you guys noticed, but Reverb also raised the rates from 6% to 8% that they're taking. And then of course you have to use their processing, which takes another 2.5%, I think 3%, something like that. Again, if I'm off by a percent or something, I apologize. But it just seems like it just seems like it's just getting harder and harder out there. If you're going to try to buy and sell something, it's just like the nightmare just keeps growing. I just thought I'd let you guys aware of that. So again, sometimes I think of that stuff as like, just community announcements, and that's the community announcement today. The other thing that I need to share is real quick is I also have a link down below in the description let's see. Hold on a second. I appreciate you being... Here it is. Because again, I want to get it right. I also, so you know, Belltone Guitars, I mentioned a couple weeks ago that Belltone Guitars, which I did a review of, is giving away a guitar or as raffling off a guitar. You can buy a ticket. I think it's like $10. You buy the ticket to win this guitar. It's basically a $2,500 made in the USA guitar. It's yellow and blue to support Ukraine. They're donating the money to help Ukraine. And that link is down below. The importance of that is it's the last like weekend to enter if you guys want to enter and maybe support and do all that again. And I just wanted to give a last shout out because it's the last weekend. And since we're doing last shout outs, I should also mention that the Geeky Stuff t-shirts end on Monday. So if you guys wanted to get one of those limited the Geeky Stuff shirts, you can get one this weekend. Otherwise they're only available to the patrons. So there you go. I just thought I'd share all that stuff. Now we need to talk about just guitar stuff. And Joey wants to know, is our fees lower on eBay now? No, I don't think so. I think if you want to save money when selling gear, you got to go to Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace or forums or, you know, any place like that. But no, I don't know what the fees are on eBay. I would imagine they're about the same. It seems like everybody seems to be figuring out how to get their money from you these days. And that's why we're going to try to stay as focused and positive today as possible. I don't want to talk about some of the stuff unless it's here to help. Somebody said they missed the Ukraine guitar info. There's a link down below. If you want to click while I'm talking, you guys just click the link for the Ukraine guitar info. You can click and read it. It's a very quick summary, and you can multitask and listen to the soothing tone of my voice while you read. And then Susan says she can't find the Geeky Stuff tees. And that's now I'm wondering if I messed that up. No, it should be in the link down below. Let me see. Hold on a second. Hold on. Just because it'd be my... Where does it go? And... Oh, I don't see them either. Well, then I guess you can't get one. I don't know where they're at. I don't know why they're missing. So I will, when we do the rebroadcast, I'll figure out why they're missing. I put the link. That is the correct link I used, but I didn't have control over them being there or not. So I guess they're gone. So not gone like out of stock, but I'll make sure it's linked later. I'm sorry. I apologize that. I just made sure the link was there. That's the downfall of I do certain things and then other things are done somewhere by someone else. Okay, let's get into some guitar questions. By the way, this one's kind of not a guitar question, but since we haven't started yet, Groovy Music Lesson says, what color is my hair? And ironically, normally I would just tell you, but funny enough, on channel 2, Phil McKnight channel 2, my second channel, there is a video on, I think it's called What Color Phil Had Hair, Phil with Hair, Phil Had Hair, Phil's Hair Color. So it's there. So if you really want to know, if inquiring minds want to know, that's where you have to go. Okay. Courier 11 seconds said best solution to all the fees going up is just never sell anything. Yeah, I mean, that's not as easy said as done, is it? I mean, sometimes it is, but most of the time it's not. When you have some gear you're not using, it's got to go. It's just got to go. Everybody buys stuff that they think it's going to work out, and it doesn't. The next little question I had, which is right here, was from Sean, who says, I can't watch live. So he's not watching right now. Sean, we're talking about you, and you'll hear about it tomorrow. I watched last Tuesday, man. It was a great show, Phil. 18 months ago, at 53 years of age, I started playing, and I love everything about guitar now. Thanks for what you do and how well you do it. Sean, it was just a praise. Thank you, man. I appreciate the praise, and I'm glad that you discovered guitar at 53. You know, I always kind of wonder about that as someone who started guitar at like 15 years old. I always, when I have friends that start guitar later in life, and I've said this before, and I mean this always as a positive, and it is a positive, it just doesn't come across. It's harder to play guitar. I've always said this. It's harder, the older you get, the harder it is to play guitar. It just is. You know, if you learn at 15, 25 will be harder, 35 will be harder than 25, 45 harder than 35, 55 harder than 45, 65. Doesn't mean you can't do it. Doesn't mean anything other than I always remind people that you should really be proud of your success because it's already hard when you're 15. It's like I said, so you've just compounded the difficulty of it. The fact that you're doing it and enjoy it. It's not an easy task. Otherwise, everybody would play guitar. What's funny is when you look at guitars and instruments in general. I mean, but we're a guitar channel, so we'll talk about guitar. When you look at guitar, the failure rate is so high, insane high compared to what the success rate is. It always reminds me, no matter what you've accomplished in your guitar playing music skills, just remember that. Just remember so many people have not even achieved that who have tried. And I'm not talking about people who didn't put any effort in it, of course, but I'm talking about people who put effort. And, it takes a lot. Any music store in the world will tell you that it takes, 10 new students to get one guitar player. That's a harsh equation. So Ricky says, starting at 63 and loving it. Well, wait till you're 65, Ricky. No, I'm just kidding, man. Congratulations. Beast Rich at 581 says failure rate's 80%. See, what's funny? Beast Rich 581, I've heard that in the industry. And I think it's much higher than that. I still think I'm 90% is more in line. But again, they're kind of guessing off numbers. I'm kind of guessing off numbers. But yeah, either way, what's 83 to 90%? It's really, what's 7% between friends? So it's not that bad, but right. It's just it lets you know how unique we are sitting here playing guitar. Okay. Then we have the next subject or question was Antique Rocker, who says, my two main axes are an Epiphone Les Paul Ultra 3 and a PRS SE Hollow Body 2 with piezo. My setup is amps and PA. So he's doing both. Lets me run acoustic wet and magnetic dry. Oh, okay. All right. Makes sense. So he's running effects through his acoustic and he's not running any effects on his electric. Have you ever played a wet dry setup? What are your thoughts? Yeah, I mean, I own, as you guys know, I own a bunch of guitars that have the piezo system in it. I have two Parkers. I have two PRSs that do it. Petrucci. I have a couple guitars, obviously, because I like that. I like having that system. And that's generally how I'll run it. I'll run one into one amp and to another amp. I like that a lot. Sometimes, you just don't always put that together because it's too much work, to set everything up. But man, when you do, it's an amazing thing and it's fun. It's fun. And so, usually what I do is I'll usually pick my acoustic sound as my looper sound. So I'll loop acoustic tones and play electric over them. That's usually why I'm doing that. I love using a looper. I use it all the time. But one of the things I do when I'm really going to sit down and just play with my looper and actually just full on, we're doing this. I always like to run the looper into one amp and then play the other through another amp, through an AB box, through a radial AB box. Although it's not that big of a deal to run the looper and the overlay that you're playing on top of the looper through one amp. There's something, if you haven't tried it, it is, like I said, you have to set up two amps, you have to go through all this process. But let me tell you, if you loop your signal through one amp and play through another amp, it feels like you're playing with somebody else. It feels like another musician's in the room because you don't hear that kind of out of phasal. I don't know if it's out of phase or what. It's a phasal, like phase crossover. There's this thing where the speaker's moving from one sound and you're playing another sound. It just doesn't ever sound right. When you run it through two amps, you really hear how dynamic it sounds when it feels like two different guitars are playing different tones. It's really cool. Happy Go Lucky says, hey Phil, love the show. I have a couple of the Ukraine shirts on order. Awesome that you're doing that. So what he's talking about, so Happy Go Lucky must be a member, our patron. The member patrons got something a couple of days ago. You guys will all see it on Monday. As you know, that's just like most channels. I give preview to the premium kind of subscriber member, and there's members on YouTube, and then there's patrons. But however, they don't just see the videos ahead of time. So, I just want to be clear what everybody sees. They don't see the video ahead of time. They see the raw, unfinished video. They become like the focus group of like, hey, this is misspelled, or this was said wrong, or I don't understand. Not my favorite, But the thing that they do the most that helps is when somebody says, okay, I'm not clear on this part, or I don't understand. And then I'm like, okay, I can add that in now, or I can add a part. So I add it. So they get usually a first draft and sometimes a second draft before the third one comes out. So you guys will get a video on Monday. It's very special to me. And that's it. That's all I'm going to say about it, because it's pretty cool. But he's got a follow-up, so it's not just about that. So here's his follow-up. He says, any thoughts on the rumors of the Paul Reed Smith T-style, which means Tele style guitar, that Miles Kennedy was captured playing one? He was captured. He tried to get away. He was running. But when you're running with a guitar, the person without a guitar is just faster. Miles Kennedy, if you don't know, is from one of my favorite bands. He's Alter Bridge, of course. He's also in Slash, and I think he's got the Miles Kennedy band as well now, just like Tremonti has his band. He was playing a Telecaster with a Paul Reed Smith. It's a Paul Reed Smith made Telecaster. I had talked to somebody at PRS Guitars about something totally unrelated to that, and of course, knowing that you guys would be interested, I asked officially what is it, and what I was told unofficially, officially, in other words, what I can tell you, which is nothing. So it's not like I'm holding back on you guys, was that realistically they make one-off guitars for all kinds of artists. This is the generalization of what I got told. They make one-off guitars all the time for artists, and sometimes it's just because the artist wanted it and they made it, and there's no intention to ever mass produce it as a product. And sometimes it's also to see if there's a reason to mass produce it as a product. And so that's what the unofficial official answer was, is that it could be a product coming in the future, or it could just be a one-off made from Miles for no reason. And yeah, Joey says PRS makes prototypes for artists all the time. Yeah, so like I said, that whether it becomes a production model or not was not already decided. That's the best thing to put out, is that I really feel like they would have told me off the record, and I wouldn't be able to tell you anyways, if it was never going to happen, or if it was definitely going to happen. They would have told me off the record, and then, you know, I would have to dodge the question. But since they didn't, they basically told me what you already kind of know, which is, it can happen or not. That's basically it. It can happen or not. What I can tell you is that, from what I do know, is that there's some products releasing from Paul Reed Smith. A lot of companies are releasing products August, September this year. A lot of products coming out August, September. In fact, I feel like August, September is going to feel like the real January NAMMs used to feel like. You can tell when you do this for a gig like I do, when all of a sudden companies start reaching out, you know, I get one or two, and I'm always, like I said, I'm proudly and unproudly, depending on how you look at it, always seem to be last choice. Like I said, if a company's asking me to do a video for a release of a new product, they have either 10 or 15 other channels doing it before me. And that usually tells me that, you know, it's going to be, you know, a big launch. And I've had a lot of companies ask me for August, September for product, for views, for videos, you know, to do views. And so a lot of stuff coming out. So basically what I'm trying to say is nothing that I've heard from PRS that is coming that I can't tell you about is anything related to that kind of stuff. And that's well into the end of this year. So even if they were making a Tele, it wouldn't happen this year, because it's obviously not anything they're discussing with me. Okay. Okay, I'm trying to understand this question, Lee. Lee says, hey, Phil, any way to integrate Bluetooth into my main rig? Any pedal or similar? Yeah, there is. There is a way to add Bluetooth to anything. Give me a second. I actually have this device, and I use it. And, oh, it's much more expensive than it used to be. What a shocker. So I'm going to show it to you. Here we go. This product is by Hosa. This is the Hosa IBT 402 Drive Bluetooth audio interface. It's $47. When I got mine, they were $20 all day long, $19. But maybe poke around, maybe on Amazon or whatever. And as you can see, what it is a device, and you can plug it into an amp, and it's Bluetooth. And that's it. I mean, I have it, and it's Bluetooth interface, stereo, dual RCA. Basically, you could plug it into your if you have the auxiliary 1/8 inch, let me go back to me. If you have the auxiliary, if you have the auxiliary 1/8 inch plug in an amplifier or a mixer, you can use that. Obviously, I had dual RCA cables. It's HOSA, so you can find an adapter if you don't have the cables. But essentially, all you do is just plug that little thing, and it looks, it's like probably 2 inches by 2 inches by 1/4 inch thick. So it's a very small thing. You put it on top of the amplifier or somewhere next to it. You plug it into your amplifier. And you turn it on. It has a built-in battery. It charges off a USB. Let me go back to you guys so I can see what you're. Okay, it has a USB charge, so you just charge it up with USB, and then and I've run it for months without having to recharge it because you're only using it for 20, 30 minutes at a time, depending on how much you're practicing, and I can run my phone right into it. And I mean, at that point you can run a cable, but if you're having the problem like a lot of us are, if you don't have your dongle for your adapter because you don't have an 1/8 inch on your phone anymore or whatever, or if you just want to use Bluetooth because it's convenient, you can add that to anything and make any amp Bluetooth. And yes, I have plugged it into the to my Fender Deluxe Reverb into the you have 2 inputs, and there's a padded input and of course a full input. I've run it into a padded input and run it through. So I've turned my tube amp into a Bluetooth speaker when I was playing guitar with it. So yeah, you can do that. They were a lot cooler when they're $20. $50, it's more of an endeavor. I mean, it's just, gosh, $50. That Gamma amp that I reviewed had Bluetooth and it was $130. I mean, that's a hard argument for that. But so, it is cool. Basically what I want to tell you is I have that device. It is cool. I do use it. So at least if you're going to spend the money, I can tell you it's going to work because I've had no Bluetooth connectivity issues with it, which is sometimes the concern when you're buying stuff like that. Okay, alrighty. Hold on a second. PMac says, why doesn't Sweetwater open more stores? We need more places to try guitars before we buy. Yeah, that's not the future they're investing in. So remember, that was what we discussed last week. They opened up a new center on the West Coast, or they're opening a new center on the West Coast. Look, they're not in that fight. They're in the opposite fight. I've said this before. I said this. This is how I convinced a good friend of mine who owns a pretty decent musical instrument company. I was explaining things, my thought process, and we were talking about Guitar Center one day, and one of the things that came up, he's like, it's 300 stores though, and you don't want to not be in 300 stores. And my comment was, do you want to be in 300 stores, or do you want to be in 30 million phones? And it's not saying one has more value than the other, but you have to remember, every guitar player essentially has a phone now or a tablet, and they can buy on their phones. And so you want to be in that market. And so that's why I said it's not about either or. It's about definitely be on the phone market because it's cheaper to be online and you can touch more people. However, we need stores, so you want to be in stores too. But I personally think the future of stores, and I've said this for a while, the future of stores is going to be very focused into a couple categories. And categories will definitely be lessons, right? So stores will focus on lessons, which they'll have entry-level instruments and they'll sell them, and band orchestra instruments. But again, we're going to start to focus on the guitar stuff. So if they're focusing on guitar lessons, they can focus on entry-level student instruments, because students will buy from people they trust because they don't know, right? They literally don't know. And if they don't have Uncle Tim to teach them guitar and help them with that first purchase, they'll do that, which is why Guitar Center wants to be in the lesson business, because you got a new prospective customer walks in and you're turning them into a guitar player, and then you'll sell them product. That's one thing that I think will continue to be successful, because online lessons are competitive, but they'll never be the same, because as I've said many times before in many videos, when I think of one-on-one lessons, and then I think of video lessons, and I think of interactive computer lessons, and I think of Zoom, Skype lessons, and when I think of just lesson programs in general, or just a lesson book, all of them are effective. But I would argue that the most effective is one-on-one, and then as you go down, they're going to become less effective. Very good, but not as good as others. So to me, my argument is always like when somebody says, I didn't take any lessons to play guitar, I didn't need any lessons. I agree with that. I think you could totally be self-taught. What I always argue is not the pride of that which you should be proud of yourself. You taught yourself an instrument, you should be proud of yourself. Be proud of yourself. I applaud you. However, what I always will remind anyone is, if you taught yourself to play guitar and somebody else went to lessons, the person with lessons typically is going to learn faster than you. You will learn faster with guidance than without guidance. You have to trial and error out your own lesson program of you teaching yourself, which is fine. If you have time to spare, use it. But if you have some money to kind of expedite that along, that's always nice too. So that's what I basically think. The lesson programs in music stores will still have value because people will still want to do one-on-one lessons for a ton of reasons. The second business model that will be highly effective for mom and pop stores or the small independent retailer is going to be high-end guitars, because high-end guitars, no matter how good Sweetwater gets at it, no matter how good, well, that's really it. In my opinion, I don't consider, when I think high-end retailers, I think of Eddie's Guitars, I think of Wildwood Guitars, I think of those kind of places, right, where they're operating at a higher online presence and even personal lessons. And there's a ton, there's personal presence. I'm sorry, when you're going personally. There's a ton of stores out there that are great. You guys are going to probably plug in a bunch right now. Trust me, Sanctuary, all of them are great. But what I mean is they to me are still superior to what Sweetwater has to offer. When I buy high-end guitars, and I'm just saying what I personally do. If you see my guitars behind me, and if you've seen when I make my purchases, you don't even have to ask me. Just pay attention. I tell you guys where I get stuff from. Notice that when I buy like my expensive guitars, it's very rarely through Sweetwater. They're always through more of an independent store. And it's because that's just where I like to make that kind of purchase. To me, that purchase is very personal and how I interact. And that price point, everything needs to be right, because I need a lot to justify a heavy purchase. As the purchase becomes lower priced, not inexpensive, just lower in price, I like Sweetwater because I can trust that I'm going to have a great return experience. But when I buy a high-end guitar, I don't want to have to deal with return experience. It's very, very unpleasant on every level. So because you have a lot of money that's out there for a long period of time. Every time I've ever bought a high-end guitar and it didn't work out and had to go back, I mean, you have a month where thousands of dollars are just out there floating. It's a long time to have money out there and not have any value for it or your money. So anyways, my point is, I think that's what other avenue the small retailer mom and pop will have as an angle. And then of course the used mom and pop, right? The used mom and pops that sell used product, because used product has two things going for it. One, man, nothing is better than actually being able to try a used product. Some people say they can't buy a guitar if they don't touch it. I have trouble buying used guitars without touching them. It's hard. No matter how many photos they take, no matter how detailed they are with the description, it's still not as easy as just when you pick it up and look at it yourself. So having used guitars in a personal experience is very valuable, but also used instruments are definitely a driver of impulse purchasing. And that has nothing to do with us. That has to do with the retailer. So what's the benefit to the retailer? The benefit to the retailer is you walk in and you see a used 1996 American Strat that you like in a color they haven't made in, 20 years. You're like, I could leave, but what if the next person behind me comes and grabs it? So you'll tend to buy it. And so those are the three ways I think the independent stores will live in the new world. And other than that, I think Sweetwater will be the next Amazon, and it will just crush out everybody who doesn't want to be around. And I don't say that. And keep in mind, I've had a viewer, and I think there's confusion. They were sending me an email, and they were asking me about like my relationship with Sweetwater. I'm like, I don't have a relationship. I'm a YouTube channel, which means if you have a YouTube channel above a certain amount of subscribers, Sweetwater has reached out to everyone that has a certain amount of subscribers and hooked up some kind of affiliate system. And it's money that just works in the background. Like I said, if you click a link, there's a royalty paid to the channel. It's revenue that helps support channels to do stuff like I do. But as a personal relationship, I have no personal relationships other than, to be honest with you, the only personal relationship I have with any retailer is I am friends with Sammy Ash, who owns Sam Ash. I enjoy his conversations with him, and I like talking to him. And so that would be the only personal retail relationship I have. But when as a gear junkie on a gear channel talking to a bunch of other gear junkies every Friday, I'm telling you, I see nobody killing it like Sweetwater when it comes to not again, I'm not recommending them as a service and stuff. I'm killing it like market share. They're just dominating what they're doing. They are just going to keep going. Yeah, yeah. Thunder Falcon says, buying used online at Guitar Center is tough. Their description is crap and they don't disclose problems. Yeah, you know, Guitar Center leans in on their return policy on the used gear. And that's their kind of logic. I don't really love that business strategy. So Guitar Center is definitely using the, okay, here's a fast grab picture. They let the employee just take a snapshot, usually out of focus. No offense to the Guitar Center employees, but, you know, Jesus, if you use your phone, it will just focus for you. I always love it when I'm looking at a picture, and I know you guys, there's 1,000 of you here. I know you guys have seen this. You go to Guitar Center used and you click on the picture and it's like this big, and then you click and enlarge it, and then the screen enlarges, but it stays small because they didn't use like enough, they didn't use the right size to format. And then it's slightly out of focus. You're like, great. And the logic, I think, is if you buy it, you can have it shipped straight to a Guitar Center store. You can go to the Guitar Center, check it physically, and if you don't want to buy it, you're not committed to it. That's the one thing about Guitar Center. If you don't want to buy what something, you're not committed to it. Their return policy is Walmart strong. In other words, it's just just return it. You don't even have to have a good reason. But that being said, that's not always a fun experience either. Sometimes it's nice to just make a educated guess. Because I think a lot of us, and I could say for myself, again, I'll just speak for myself. When I'm buying used gear online, a lot of times I'm just eliminating things. I'm not looking to see what the problem is. I'm just eliminating the things I kind of know are going to be problems, and I'm just making sure it doesn't have those problems. So, Brandon Mitchell says, there are 11,000 guitars on their used section currently. There were 7,000 a couple months ago, and this time in 2020 there were less than 3,000. Yes, of course. Look, the boom is over. The boom is over. Talking to retailers, it doesn't. If you guys just casually walk into your retailers that you love, you guys are already seeing the signs of the boom being over. And that's kind of what I want to focus on, because you can talk about the economic environment right now, and that is a factor of things. But we first got to just discuss the boom, right? Because there was a boom, and it went for a long period of time, an insane period of time, 2 years of guitar boom. And that guitar boom is pretty much over. And I used this analogy a year or so ago when I said, if the boom was driving 120 miles an hour, okay, when the boom stops, the guitar boom that is, and we slow down, it's not scary yet, because slowing down is like to 80 miles an hour. The speed limit is still 75. People are still buying. In this market, I can tell you, I see it. I think every week I go, okay, because I watch the news and I go, okay, this is what's going on. Okay, this is going on. Okay, this is going on. People are probably not going to buy guitars now. And then I go and I see affiliate links, because we have thousands of affiliate links through multiple vendors. And I look at the numbers, and you guys are still buying stuff. I even watched a really funny thing on Facebook a couple days ago. Somebody mentioned, like, I'm not buying any more gear. And they go, and that's why I bought this one piece of gear, because it was on sale, because I'm not really buying any gear. And I'm like, I started laughing going, yeah, I think that's what happens first. Before we go and we don't buy any more gear, I'm seeing some price dropping. In other words, if you were spending a year ago this much, you're spending a little less and a little less. But I still see product moving. I do know, though, that as the supply chains catch up, they're starting to choke the dealers a little bit. That's for sure. You see that too. So, and remember, there's another factor. You know what? Good segue, a self-promotion segue. I'm going to give you a self-promotion segue. I just had to deal with it this week. So, as you know, when we ship out pickups, we stay in this perpetual back order because of the boom, right? I mean, very, very clearly, that's what it is. Just impulse buying has been strong for a while. Now, it doesn't matter if sales slow. My biggest problem right now, and what I had to deal with was, here, I'll show you, because this is something I was dealing with right before we went live. So here's the packaging that we use. We use these boxes, right? And we can't get, there's part of the packaging that we use is, it's all biodegradable. It's all paper-based. So I don't use any plastic packaging in the pickups, even though the pickups are plastic. It's kind of weird. But anyways, but at least the materials that go in the trash aren't plastic. And so what happened is my wife was explaining to me that they're going to use this crunched up brown paper because we can't get the normal batting. I think it's called batting. And I asked for a clarification on what it was called. But whatever the material is that's wood, it's shredded wood that goes in there. We can't get that right now. And there's something else we can't get right now for packaging. So we got held up. Like, in other words, it doesn't matter if the orders decrease. We can't handle any orders because we can't get any product out. And so the decision was made today that we would discount product. So the product on the website's discounted for the first time ever. And it says as a disclaimer that the packaging you receive will be slightly different. And that was kind of my workaround, was like, okay, what we'll do is we'll give them slightly different packaging that's not up to par. Plus the paper, this paper that they get is cheaper than the batting. So we obviously want to save the consumer some money too. But what I'm basically getting at is that's the secondary problem that's happening simultaneously still. As sales slow down, it doesn't matter. You still can't get the materials to get the customers that you have taken care of for the most part. The supply chains is a nightmare. So there you go. And then if anyone wants to pick up, this is the first time they're on sale. There's 4 of each. That's it. There's 4 sets of P90s, 4 sets of humbuckers. Is because here's why. We have exactly 8 of these boxes that we could work up together. That's, like I said, that's all we could figure out how to do is come up with 8 boxes. Landon says, just pack it with candy. Well, we thought about, I talked about just like, why don't we stick it in like just in a generic box? And then I talked myself out of that real fast. And I'm not even really happy about this decision, but Brad Guitar Miller says shipping costs are crazy right now. Absolutely. Shipping costs are crazy right now. We shipped a lot of instruments this week for something you'll see on Monday, and the prices are psychotic. So there you go. All right, let's go to what? Let's go to more questions. We have JP. JP says, hey, Phil, I'm converting my Fender American Special Tele to a baritone with a Warmoth neck. Oh, okay. So you're going to get the extended neck from Warmoth, which is a great idea. So my question is, considered a faux pas to put a Fender decal on a non-Fender neck. Is it a faux pas? In other words, should he not do it? So I'm going to come at it 2 ways, and then you have to decide for yourself. Okay. So again, I won't decide it for you, but I'll give you the information that you probably want to know. First of all, you're going to notice that when you get the neck from Warmoth, it's going to say LIC, it'll be stamped LIC Fender, licensed by Fender, which means Warmoth has an agreement with Fender to use that headstock shape. And so therefore that's all that means. Doesn't mean that Fender inspected the quality of the neck or any of that stuff. It just means that Fender was paid a royalty of some kind by Warmoth for using the shape of their headstock, which is a licensing deal that Fender has with some manufacturers. Mighty Might has one too, I believe, as well. They can make a Fender headstock shape as long as they pay the licensing. What they can't do is put the logo on there. If you were to put the logo on there, legally, you're not committing any crimes, or because it's for personal use. Fender wouldn't actively go after you for doing it for personal use. Usually the gray area is if you were to make, not even sell them, just make multiples. That's where it gets a little tricky and you usually get everybody's attention. So if you want to do it. My only thing, of course, is, like I said, is you never want to have anything that looks like you're being deceptive. And if you don't, worry about it, that's fine. But what I always worry about is, let's say a year from now you decide you don't want this thing anymore and you go to sell it and you tell the person, look, it's not a real Fender, I just put the logo on there, and then they buy it and then they tell somebody it's a real Fender. You did your diligence, but now you still have a problem out there. So it's up to you if you want to put a Fender logo on it. That's really just the easy part. It's up to you, but I always still think it's still cool not to put a Fender logo on it. I still think it's cool to put, Chender or put your name in Fender font or something like that. And that's it. And the reason is not for any, like I said, I have no loyalty to the Fender guys, but it's not about that for me. It's about, like I said, first of all, I just think it's cooler not to do that. I think it's cooler to do something a little bit unique. I don't think it's cheesy. I think it's cool because it's more of what you did, right? It's something you created. But if the core of what you want to know is, can you do it? You absolutely can, because it doesn't fought. Scott Grove says, I bought Warmoth decals for all my Fender guitars. Yeah, see, that's actually, that's funny. But yeah, that's what I said. You can do it. Like I said, you can also come up with something cool, different. Okay. Meester says, happy Friday, Phil. Phil, you're the best. I'm the best. You're the best, Meester. Says, any thoughts on the Epiphone Prophecy Les Paul? I haven't tried it. And I did a couple less Epiphones. I'll probably do some more. As you guys know, I'll be at Sweetwater, so I plan to film a bunch of content when I'm there to do some content. I mean, I'm there to do content, but I'm going to try to hit as many guitars as possible too. So if you guys want to put suggestions in this live stream, in the comments when it rebroadcasts of guitars you'd like to see videos of, that's what I kind of want to focus on. Vim69 said, happy Father's Day, Phil. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Matt says, hey, I just got an Aria SCS 250. It's a wonderful guitar, but I was hoping you could tell me more about them, of your experience with them. It's a 1980, by the way, one-phase switch, if that helps. Let me look at the model. I had an Aria Pro 2 when I was a younger lad. I like Aria Pro. They're all over the place, though. Some are Japanese, some are made in Korea. They probably make them in other places, too. Oh, I see. So this is the one that's more like a double cut. It's funny. I see a lot of CS350s, and yours is a CS250? Is that correct? Let me look what you're saying. Yeah, 250. I have never tried this guitar. I'm not looking at your exact guitar. I'm going to try and see if I can go to images and see what it pulls up. And here's one. Let me share it with everyone. So if you're looking here, it definitely has that double cut. Kind of like a Gibson, kind of like a Hamer, kind of like an SG vibe kind of thing going on. Very cool. I have never tried this particular model. I would bet, not knowing anything about it, it's made in Japan. That would be my guess. But that's just a guess. I'm looking to see if I can see anything on it. But I don't know much about them. I mean, this isn't even a guitar that... Oh, here's a back plate. Let's see if it says. Yeah, made in Japan. Yeah, that would be my guess. I don't know much about them. I never tried one. That's one of the ones I've probably seen in stores. One never came across my bench or never came through our store at any time, and I've never had the opportunity to play one. But to me, it's if you're buying made in Japan era guitars from the 80s and stuff, it's usually a safe bet. It's going to be some kind of quality, and it looks cool. Pedally says, for the pedal jar, there's a pedal jar. Happy Friday, Phil. Happy Friday, Pedally. By the way, Pedally, Nathan was talking about you. He was like, hey, there's a company called Pedally, and they saw me at the NAMM show. And I said, yeah, they're here in Phoenix, in the Phoenix area. He's said next time he's in town, he's going to check out your shop. Benjamin says, have a spicy fried cauliflower from the Thirsty Lion. Hey, Benjamin, what's up, buddy? So, as you guys know, Benjamin's he came to town. I don't know when that was. I think that was 3 months ago. Was that February? Or it could have been earlier. I don't remember when it was. I don't remember when you came. That's how time flies. And we had when he came to town. Usually, if I get the opportunity to meet some of you guys when you're in town, like I said, I always tell you guys, just email me. If it works out, it works out. I will always try to make it. I've met now more than a dozen viewers in the same environment. Usually, I'll wherever you are in town. Usually, a lot of times, if you're in town, you're at the airport. And I think that's why he was by the airport, too. And I know a ton of places in town that are cool, or at least places I like. Maybe not cool is not the answer. And the Thirsty Lion is a place that it's just a nice little bar. It's like a chain, but it's a nice little chain of bars. And we went there and had fried cauliflower and What else do we have? Oh, you know what we had is he had the Brussels sprouts, the charred ones. They were really good. Randy says, "Hey Phil, recent got an Epiphone Les Paul LMTD limited edition collaboration of Epiphone and the Gibson Custom Shop, Gibson Pickups and Electronics. Phenomenal guitar." That's cool. You know, I didn't even know that they're doing any kind of collaborations between Epiphone and Gibson. That makes the most sense to me. That's one thing that I think about that Epiphone 1959 Les Paul that I reviewed was it was really cool that they put, you know, Gibson pickups in it. I really kind of wish that was more of a thing. I just feel like I understand the premium you have to put on your USA made product, but it just feels like sometimes if you're buying the import product, if they could just put some of the key components from the USA product in there, I feel like you're saving money because obviously it's made overseas. You're saving money because it's a different logo, it's a different company. So just give me the sound that I want. So there you go. 94 Dodge Dude says, "Hey Phil, I'm wondering, is there any reason acoustics, even expensive ones, never come with locking tuners? I hate the string changes on normal tuners." I think it really kind of goes to, believe it or not, to tradition. If you guys know, I'm a huge Monty Montgomery fan, huge. And Monty Montgomery, he has a Alvarez Yeri, and it has locking keys on it. My Taylors, all but one, have locking keys on them. I even did a video where I put some locking keys on one of my Taylors. And it's one of the Sharp Max videos. And I like locking keys for the same reason. It's just speed up the tuning process. But man, a lot of times they just don't do it. And I've asked anybody in the industry that I can get they get their ear for a second. When you ask them, they don't really have a clear answer other than most traditional acoustic players don't want them. You know, you can't upset the way things are done. That's generally the reason they give me. I'm not saying that's the reason. That's just the reason they give me. I actually personally think on an acoustic guitar, I wish locking keys were, I think they make even more sense on acoustic guitar than electric. So, and today's day and age, what's nice is they make every kind of key into a locking format. So if you have an acoustic guitar with a locking key, pretty much any kind of, if you have an acoustic guitar with any kind of tuning key, you can find the locking key equivalent and just drop it in place and just go and not have to do any modifications. Robert Cross says, I have a 2019 Gibson Les Paul JRDC and 2021 SG Special, seems to have better frets. Okay. They seem slimmer and higher, feels more precise. Is there a significant difference in the frets used? You know, Gibson, when it comes to Gibson, the things I will always tell you is they are the most just constantly different instruments than I've ever experienced. I don't know another brand besides maybe just really inexpensive $100 guitars that has a more or less consistent, that is less consistent with neck shapes, fret sizes, just feels, just everything. I feel like I can pick up 20 Gibsons and get 20 different feeling necks and fret feel and just the contours. Everything's just different. And I don't know what that is. To the point where that's why it's hard to recommend like a certain model of Gibson to anyone. And it's one of the things I kind of think that's also one of the appeals of the guitars is that people feel like when they find one they like, they can't find a whole lot of duplicates of it. So they really feel connected to it. Where, when it comes to like, especially like Fenders and Paul Reed Smiths, they get told a lot of times that they're just really, like Paul Reed Smith constantly are told that they don't have the soul. And I think it's the consistency that does that. It's hard to feel like your guitar's special when everyone's guitar, everyone has the same guitar as you, feels and plays the same way and sounds the same way. There's a consistency to it. And I don't think they're actually all that consistent. They're just one of the most consistent. And Kev says that's just unacceptable for what Gibson charges. The one thing is, and I've said this a million times, and again, you don't have to agree with me. It's not what it's about. I'm just giving you my opinion. What Gibson sells is not quality. is not consistency. Gibson sells a vibe, a status. There's just like the, hey, it's a cool guitar, to have, and the idea of it's a high-end expensive guitar, but it's also, it has this legacy and history to it. And that's kind of what they're banking on. And that's what they really focus on. The other thing too, you gotta understand, this is the funny, weird conversation. Sometimes when I have these shows, sometimes I can't remember what I've talked about in the past, but more importantly, sometimes I have a conversation with somebody in the industry and it's hard to like remember what I said to them this week and now what I'm saying to you guys, it crosses over. But interesting enough, I had an interesting conversation with somebody this week, and that was the conversation was companies that don't even know their own history. And what I mean by that is, you guys look at Fender and Fender, I'll pick on Fender Gibson because big companies are easy to pick on. You can always punch up, I guess. Here's the thing about Fender and Gibson that are interesting to me. You constantly, they're always like, we've reissued this guitar, and this time we got it right. It's exactly like it was. And then 2 years later, like, we reissued that guitar again, but this time we really got it right. We even figured out the knobs this time. And then 2 years later, like, but this time, this is the time we got it right. And you think to yourself, how is that possible? They don't even know what their own guitar is. And it's because no one that worked there when those guitars are made. And when you go and see those factories, there isn't like, it's not like, I mean, think about this. Paul Reed Smith, and again, I'm just using him as a good example because he's a great example of this. Paul Reed Smith started his company in 1986. He's been there the whole time. He can't remember everything because, I mean, who could? He's done a whole lot. But the reason why sometimes we refer to companies like Paul Reed Smith differently than Fender and Gibson is because of that reason. When you have a person who's like, I started the company in 1986 and now it's 2022 and I'm still running it. He's still running the company, right? It's the same person. So if you ask Paul about a question about a guitar in 1989, I have a good feeling he can reasonably give you a close answer. Most people at Gibson, if you ask them about a Gibson in 1989, they're like, I don't know, I didn't work here then. And who the hell knows? And more importantly, it's not even companies. If you know how this industry works, it works just like any other industry. And again, we'll use Fender now for this example. When Fender has a product line, let's say Fender creates a American line of, because they have the American line, they have the Mexico line. Let's say the American line of guitars. There's a product manager and they're in charge. And they have a vision and they kind of create what they think the line of guitars should be for the year, and they get it approved by their bosses and they put it out. And then a couple years later, they leave. Either they get fired or they quit or whatever happens. But then you have another project manager and they's going to come in, and it's just like when we see movies and they jack them all up because the new director has a different vision than the first director that started it, and now it's all over the place. That's how these companies kind of are. You have a lot of different people that are basically changing things, in fact, all the time, to the point where they don't even know what was done before. And so now you have to have like historians that do this. Gibson actually has a ton of people. I just read an article. There's one on Guitar World, I think this week, about a historian who's known for being a Gibson historian who was talking about all this stuff in Gibson. And they have to kind of rely on that. And not only that, but you can understand Gibson and Fender and a lot of these older companies have been around a long time and have kind of churned all their employees, and the ownership is long separated many times over. They have to go buy their old guitars and kind of look at them and go, okay, what did they do back then? And how did they do it? And remember, keep in mind, the buildings have changed. The machineries have changed, right? So when you ask them a question, the way the Fender guitar is made today versus how it was made in the 60s, massively different. So not only different locations, but different machinery, different everything. So that's kind of, and Fender, one thing I will tell you that's funny about Fender, if you ever have the fortune to go check out the Fender American factory, get a real tour, they used to have these like hybrid tours that for the I guess the I don't know, tourists. There's a wall in Fender. I'll get pictures. So next time we do a live show, I'll get the pictures and scan them. It's a wall and it's long. It's probably about 100 feet long, and it's every Fender neck they've ever made, the prototype, hanging on the wall. So they can physically touch it and see, like, well, okay, how do we make the first Jeff Beck neck, and how do we make the Eric Johnson neck, and how do we make the very first American Professional neck. They have all these templates and necks, but it's all saved in the CNC machines, but they also have like hard copy. They have an original template neck. And if you ever seen, there's a video, me and the Tone King did it. We did a tour of PRS, and I've done a bunch of tours with a bunch of factories, but this particular tour with Tone King was different. There was a room that we got invited into, and it's in his video, so you have to go to his channel. It's a PRS tour. It's like a 4-part tour. And in there was a room where they showed us shelving where they kept the very first ever amp. Every amp they've ever made, the first one is there. So when they make their first amp, they keep it in the shelf like the prototypes. And so if they ever need to physically see something in the amp, the original one, they can go and look at it. And it really helps them because sometimes, these companies, like, they design an amp and then there's a problem later. So they kind of make a fix for it, and then they make another fix, and then make another fix. And then one day they go, okay, wait a minute, let's go back to the original and see what happened. So that's what it is. So that's Grubby My Guitar says, that was a great video. That was Jack Higginbotham who gave us that tour. And it was so impromptu. It wasn't an official thing. We just happened to be there at an event, and we were there the day before the event. Miscommunication. And obviously it was both of us. We both misunderstood what they were saying. We thought the event was like a day before. They were saying you should get there the day before, like get to Maryland the day before. So we just showed up at the factory, and they were like, they didn't know what to do with us. So they kind of, Jack, the CEO of companies, like, hey guys, want me to take you around the factory and show you stuff? And we're like, yeah, let's do it. And then we took out our cameras and filmed everything. So it was a cool little, little tour because it was a little different. I've done so many tours with so many companies. Every once in a while you get the lucky one where somebody's really showing you some really cool and interesting different stuff. Because a lot of tours are scripted, and even scripted in where they go and what they show you. And I've done a couple tours at a couple manufacturers where you do them, and they're cool. But every once in a while you get that one, and they're just taking you around like an employee taking you around, and you're like, it's a way different experience. My microphone keeps moving. I'm sorry. Smelly Cat's Jazz says, which do you prefer, Fender 4-year cycle or something closer? I don't know what 4-year cycle means. Or something closer to an Ibanez ESP, constant refreshes. Okay. Oh, I think what you're talking about. I used to lean towards the Ibanez method, but they keep killing lines like that. So basically what you're talking about is Fender running. What do I prefer? How Fender runs it in multiple years of their product line, or Ibanez ESP, who's constantly just doing new product lines. I don't have a preference. To me, it's just, it's when I pick up a guitar that I like, I just like it. And I'm not usually waiting for the new thing. I'm excited to see the new thing. I'm always excited to see the new thing. What's new, what's going to be different, what new colors are coming out. I'm always excited about that, but it necessarily doesn't ever grab me. I never know when I'm going to be interested in something. I don't have a way to predict it like that. And so if a company came up with a product line every year, I don't know if it would actually resonate with me. So to answer the question, I don't really have a preference either way. What I really like is what I'm drawn to by far are limited edition runs. That's what I've always been drawn to. And like I said, looking behind me, there's, and also not only limited edition runs, but also, when I know they're going to stop making something, and then therefore it kind of by definition becomes limited. That's what I'm interested in. And then Groovy Music Lessons, Scott Grove says, is that another Kloss guitar behind you? Close. I don't know why I'm saying Kloss. Close guitar behind you. Yes, it's the blue one. It is. So I did a review of Close guitars, and in that video I had two. I had a 24-inch scale model on a white body with the Close pickups, and then I had this color blue 25-inch scale with the Fishman Fluence pickups on it. And of course they had to go back, and I talked to them because I was really into the guitar. And I think I watched Scott's video too, and I know he was really into the guitar too, because Scott gets it the way I think I get it, which is carbon fiber guitars are freaking expensive. I mean, they've always been expensive. It's always been a hellacious thing to get. And And I remember in that video, the thing I got the most crap for that makes me laugh. I said the word affordable. Apparently, it was my mistake. I apologize. I said, this is the most affordable carbon fiber guitar. And I guess the guitar was like $1,300. And there was like so many comments just berating, like, you think $1,300 is affordable? And I'm like, you wonder about yourself going, did I give the right context? Because I'm trying to explain, like, good luck trying to find a carbon fiber neck instrument sub $3,000 now. Doesn't even exist. So no, do I think $1,300 is affordable? Do I think $1,300 is nothing? No, I don't think that at all. Do I think spending $1,300 comparatively to $3,000 is a big difference? It's a massive difference. It's less than half. Less than half of anything is a big difference, right? So, so Scott, to answer your question, I decided, I go, okay, since I didn't get to keep one of those, which is, sometimes that's the gig, right? You get to keep one. That's nice. I didn't get to keep one of them. The benefit to me was, well, I knew what I liked about each one. I liked the blue and I liked the 24-inch scale on the other one, which shocked me because I really thought I'm more of a 25.5-inch guy. So the 24 3/4 was shocking. And although I love the Fishmans, I kind of was like, cost-wise, I wanted to keep the cost down. So I told the guys at Close Guitars, I said, hey, can I order one with blue, 24-inch scale, and just give me your basic pickups, because either I'll keep them or I'll upgrade them, because I have the pickups to upgrade them laying around, and I'll just upgrade it later. And really cool. And so it took them, I'm trying to remember when that video came out. It's been 2 months, I think, right? So it took them about 2 months to build it and ship it out to me. So pretty cool. So I just got it. Very excited about it. So they don't have a sort for light. In other words, they don't have a way to sort the guitar to be light. So I was a little nervous about that, but it came in and it was really light. It was actually slightly lighter than the first one they sent me to review, which is good. So yes, I have it. And I plan to put I think I'm going to put some pickups in it and do something with it. Okay. Yeah, and he said, way groovy. Great to hear. Yeah, like I said, that's one thing I know we have in common. We both like carbon fiber, and I'd like to see more carbon fiber instruments and in the market. I don't know how to say your name. I'm sorry. So I don't want to jack it up. But he says, are you talking about carbon fiber reinforcement rods? Tons of guitars have that. Yeah, no. Not carbon. That neck, if you watch the video, it's called Close. K-L-O-S. Close. It looks like Kloss, but it's Close. Because the owner's name is like Klosevec. I'm saying his name wrong. It's what is he? He's he told me he's Polish. I think he's Polish. So it's Klosevec, so he just calls it Close, because obviously its name's a little difficult. And that's a carbon fiber neck. So it's like a phenolic resin fretboard on an actual woven carbon fiber neck. So the neck is carbon fiber. So like I said, so no, carbon fiber rods are cool too, for sure, for reinforcement. But we're talking about carbon fiber necks and carbon fiber bodies. So Lisa says carbon fiber can be cool looking. Absolutely. But also it has really cool properties when done right. It's very stable, obviously. It can take a lot of abuse for a guitar. And if somebody could get it, hold on. If somebody could manufacture enough of them, they could probably get the price down to be more affordable. The problem with them is always it's expensive, and they can never get the volume up because guitar players are very focused on what they like. So, in fact, I know Scott Grove. Yeah, I think you're gonna like my next video. I think it's the next one or the one after that. It's about strings and why I was wrong about. That's what the video is about. It's about why I was wrong about coated strings. So I think you'll like it because I know you're a fan of coated strings. So I think I'm a fan of coated strings now, and I'm still in shock. In fact, I had to push the video back an extra week to make sure I was going to be sure of this decision that I was about to say to everybody, that I've changed my mind and I'm wrong about something, and I'll explain why. BC Rich 581 says, I have a carbon fiber fretboard on aluminum neck bass. Oh, is it an Alumitone neck? They make great necks. They're going to make me a bass neck and we'll do a video. But they've been just busy, you know, obviously, you know, like everybody just killing it in the market. Does that mean I'm going to hell? I don't think it means you're going to hell. LPD Pedal says it's not wood, but it's close. Nice. There's their new tagline. Send it to them. Sell it to them. They'll use it. So, all right. The carbon fiber thing has went off the rails. All right. Okay. So let's go back to who? What are we going to do? Oh my God, Justin Mabe. What's up, Justin? I haven't seen you in a while. How's it going, buddy? Justin Mabe's one of the members who've been around a long time as a viewer, and he was in the Air Force. He retired from the Air Force, but he retired, but he did the thing that military guys do, which is he retired, but now he's got a job. I understand what he means, but so it's good to see you again. Let's do Grumpy Mike Guitar says, I hope for the tone jar, and why not? Because that's his thing. I got to say it. For the tone jar, and why not? I hope you and the family are keeping cool out there. No. In the desert. I hope you enjoy the weekend. Cheers. No, it's hot, man, but that's okay. If you live here, you know. Arizona, you know, it's hot, but that's it. That's it. We don't have hurricanes. We don't have anything. No earthquakes, no nothing. It's just hot. It just gets really hot. And it does, and people always say this thing. Look, and I know you guys are all over the country and all over the world, and let me explain this to you so you understand. In Arizona, not all Arizona is hot, by the way. In fact, the majority of Arizona is not hot because most of the northern Arizona's got really good weather, and it gets actually cold and snowy. Right? I'm in the wintertime, I'm only 40 minutes from snow from my house, so I can get to the snow faster than most people. And actually, snow places can get to snow, and skiing's 40 minutes from my house. But that being said, everybody's like dust storms. That's not a thing. Like they have the haboob storms and stuff, but they let everything here. Like we have monsoons too, by the way, but it like rains really hard, just like the dirt storm, but it's only like 20, 30 minutes. It's, and now he's making the dry heat, but what they don't understand, about the heat here is not that it's a dry heat, cause it is, and it does help, is that in where I live in the Phoenix area, when I say it's hot, it doesn't stop. Like, so when it's 110 at night, at like midnight, it's 102. like it stays three figures. Like it stays 3 digits. It stays 3 digits like 24 hours a day here. It can't for months. It can do that. It just, so I went, after I got out active, when I was in the reserves, they sent me way too many times. I think I went 5 times to Death Valley. It's Fort Irwin, and for those of you who know where that is, it's in the middle of Death Valley, basically, or it's next to the Death Valley. I don't really know. I just know you're there because like you turn off the highway and it's just like this it's a non, it's not a public road, and it takes you to Fort Irwin, and they play war games, and I turn wrenches on things. And I remember they would tell me the first time I went there, they go, it's going to be 117. I'm like, yeah, it's 118 here. And what they didn't tell me was the reason why they play war games in Death Valley is because it's like Iraq and Iran, where it's 115 during the day, but as soon as the sun sets, it drops and it gets cold. It's like 60, which doesn't sound cold to some of you, but when it's 115 and you get sunburned, night, it's just freezing. And I was not prepared for that. And that was shocking. So here it doesn't like that. Like I said, here it's 110, and then at night it's still 100. It's just crazy. The Guitar Man 45. So air conditioning is a good thing to have there. Look, man, I always tell people Arizona is terraformed. In other words, we live here against Mother Nature's will. So not only is everything air conditioning, everything here is fake. Fake trees with fake grass pumped in with water brought from somewhere else to all pretend that we're not in the desert. Otherwise you wouldn't live here. I don't know why anyone lives here now. I live here because it used to be cheap to live here. That was the advantage. You could be 5 hours from California and do California stuff and not have California prices. And that was kind of the appeal for most people. And, but now it's expensive as hell. So I don't understand the logic. I don't know why anybody would pay a fortune to live here. Greg says, got home from work, lit a J. I think that's a joint, which is probably legal depending on the state. Forgot my question. Cheers to the beer fund anyway. Thanks for all the work, man. It's really helpful. So very nice. Very nice. In Theory says, any recommendations for bulk suppliers for pickup making? Okay, hold on. Let me get the rest of the question. I've only used All Parts and Mojo for, but I'm interested in bulk alternatives. I don't know who you would use for bulk pickups. I have friends that make like thousands and tens of thousands of pickups. And there was a question about whether or not we would take the line and do an OEM on the pickups. I have two sources for that, but just so you know, in Theory Apps, just so you know, when we talked about doing it, we were looking at a purchase of somewhere between 5 to 10,000 pickups. So the reason I tell you that is if you want to message me personally, I know somebody can probably take care of you if you need that kind of thing, but I don't know anybody else that does. I did some pickups for a manufacturer last year, which really sucked up a lot of my pickups. That's why a lot of you guys couldn't get pickups, because a manufacturer really liked them. And the request was to not be branded with my branding. They wanted their branding on it. And I did the deal because they offered it to me and it was a really good deal. And because they were just building guitars and because they were building nice guitars with it, they didn't ask me to discount too much for the volume they're doing. But even then, it was 100 pickups and 100 sets, and that was a lot for me. So I don't know. I'm not really familiar. But I would say Mojo Tone. You said Mojo Tone. I would say Mojo Tone. That would be one I'd consider. Doug says, Phil, I'm thinking about making guitars full-time now, and I think I want to call the company Chibson. There's already a company called Chibson, but okay, hold on. Because it's controversial and I'm all about the grift. Have a great weekend, everyone. I would just get in touch with the guys at Chibson. There is Chibson. The guys that do Instagram are called Chibson. There's the Chibson guys, and they even have a Chibson guitar they made. Remember they made the Fred Durst guitar, like the Fred Burst. Maybe you can work something out with them. They might be interested. Let me put it this way, Doug. If you're willing to build guitars and you want to brand them as Chibson and you do some kind of marketing on that and branding on that, those would be great guys to contact and see if they're interested, because as you know, the biggest expense for a lot of times is the customer acquisition to get the customers. And they have a customer base. They have a viewer base. They have the people's attention, so they could market it and you could work out a deal. And I'm sure whatever you have to cut them in for would be less than what it would cost you to get those customers otherwise. Kevin did a super chat. Thank you, man. Zubin says Zubin. Thank you, Zubin, for the phonetics. So Z-U-B-I-N, he's saying Z-O-O-B-I-N. Zubin. Hi, Phil. I got my first Tele, a 60s JV modified, custom and Fire Miss Gold. Love the guitar, but interested in new pickups. What do you recommend? I like the Lindy Fralins that are in my Tele behind me. I use the Lindy Fralins, the blues set, and there's a modded blues set or a hot blues set, but I have the actual basic blues set. And to give you reference to that, I can make a set of Tele pickups, and when I've made pickups in the past, it's I like the saying, just because I'm smart doesn't mean I'm able. I've used that a lot, usually with plumbing analogies with my wife. You know, she'll be like, hey, do this. And I'm like, look, I'm smart. I can figure out the plumbing, but it doesn't mean I'm able, which means it doesn't mean it will come out as good as hiring the right person. So the Tele pickup thing, I've done a bunch of Tele pickups, and I've just never loved anything I've made as much as some of the Tele pickups that are out there on the market. And if I can't do it better than somebody, or at least to my preference, what I want more, then I don't see the point in doing it. I don't want to be just another, generic selection out there. I want it to be something different. So, so that's my point. I'm really kind of highlighting his pickups because although I love a ton of the Tele pickups out there, for some reason, there's something about those pickups that I like. And I think what I like about them is a lot of times what you don't like about Tele pickups is they're a little bright and a little thin. And his are very bright, but they still punch, and they're, and they give me Tele sound, but they don't give me the things I don't like about Teles, which is sometimes they're brittle and thin. if that helps. I would recommend that set. Even though it's a little pricey, it's definitely worth it to me. And I'd like to also point out, which is important sometimes when you do a recommendation for something, is not only is that what I have in that guitar, it's been in that guitar since probably 2019, maybe 2018, so 18, so a while, years, and no desire to change it out. And I have other pickups downstairs to try, and I just don't want to. I'm happy with them every day. Okay, guys are all over the place with comments. All right. If you're talking to me, put a question mark first so I know it's to me. Okay. Edward, I just want to talk about this because I'm sorry. Edward says, when it's 118 degrees outside, you could do an ice bucket challenge. No sweat. Yes. It's hot. So it's funny. When people come to visit in Arizona in the summertime, one of the things that cracks you up is my pool, because you have, like I said, a lot of houses, like I think it's 1 in 5 houses in Arizona have a pool or something like that. Some crazy number. If you ever fly over the Phoenix area, look at the neighborhoods. It's like house, pool, house, pool, house. Because it's just too hot to do anything else. If you don't have a pool, you pretty much can't do anything if you have kids. And if you don't have an in-ground pool, you just have an above-ground pool. But the pool has what's called an aerator on it. And that's real common with pools here. And I didn't know that. I'm pretty much from Arizona my whole life. I've been here since I was 10 years old. So to me, Arizona is like my whole life here. And so I don't have a lot of experience outside of that when it comes to living, in a house and stuff. And aerator seems so normal to me. And I remember the first time I had friends come over from out of state in the summertime. And they said, we're going to go swimming tomorrow. This is a true story. They said, let's go swimming tomorrow. And I said, oh, okay, cool. I'll turn on the aerator tonight. And I went out and turned on the aerator, and they go, what's the aerator? And I go, oh, it's connected to your pool. It's like a sprinkler, and it shoots water over your pool. And they go, why would you do that? And I go, well, at night, the water goes over your pool. Like I said, it looks just like a sprinkler you put out in the grass, right? When it fans out across your pool. The air travels across the water, cools the water, and it circulates the water and cools the water for the pool. And they're like, why would you do that? And I go, well, otherwise the pool's too hot to go swimming in. And they go, what do you... I just remember thinking, I feel like I was on another planet. And now I totally understand what people are freaking out about. The joke I made was, and this is not an exaggeration, I said, the pool, if you don't aerate it, or you don't we have actually aerator, and we have sails, like these covers that go over the pool to shade the pool. The pool is like 98 degrees. And I go, I'm 98 degrees. It's like swimming in your own sweat. It's a disturbing thought, but it's true. So those of you who are having hot times out there, you can keep all that in mind. Yeah, it's like taking a bath. Susan says it's exactly like that. You get in, and yeah, there's no concern of jumping in the water and feeling like it's too cold. So Jake says Arizona nights are cool, not in Phoenix. And if you live in Tucson, or if you live south of Phoenix or north of Phoenix, it cools down. But here, the nights are not cool. Tonight, I don't know well, let's see. And then we'll get back to guitar stuff. I know we're getting off subject, but sometimes it's interesting to see where people live and how they live. I'm going to tell you the weather here right now. So today's high was 110. Tonight's low will be 83. So it actually it'll be like 83 at 3 in the morning. So that's actually pretty cool for us. Once we hit into July, like I said, once we hit the 110s, 112s, the lows will be definitely in the high 90s, low 100s for the low of the night, which is still warm. Okay. Yeah, Brad says, same here in Houston, Texas. Yeah, I know. Plus there's a heat wave across the country. Okay, let's, Richard's question, or topic is, hey, Phil, what 1/4-inch cables do I use? I use two kinds of cables for guitar, and the two I use are Klotz cables, which they sent me these cables. I even did a giveaway, and I gave away a bunch. But they sent me these cables, and they have the Neutrik breaker on there, which I absolutely love. Like once you do that, you can't ever go back to anything else. It's awesome. And you can get that end on Paul Reed Smith makes a cable. I think Megami makes a cable with that. It's a Neutrik end. It's red and has a little breaker on it. And it's just, once you go their way, it's crazy money. But, you know, once you do it, it's just too amazing to go back. But other than that, the cables I use are the D'Addario or Planet Waves. I don't know how they brand them now, but all the ones I have are branded Planet Waves because I bought them years ago and I still use them. Made in USA cables. It's just, that's what it says. Like it's like American something. They're made in New York. Quality cables at probably some of the most reasonable prices for cable I've seen. And I have never had one go bad. I have every cable I ever bought from them still. By the way, I have every Klotz cable that they sent too. None of them gone bad either. So those are the ones I use. But the ones I recommend are the Planet Waves ones because whoops, let's click something. Sorry about that. Because the Klotz ones, like I said, are very good, but they're expensive. And the Planet Waves ones, the reason I recommend them is they're very good, but they're not very expensive. Just read some of you guys' comments about the bots. Yeah, there's no way to stop the bots on the live shows that I know of. There's no filtering yet. On the pre-recorded videos, you can block all that stuff out and shut it all down. But on the live shows, I don't think YouTube gives us a system that lets us do it. But maybe they do. Let me experiment it for next week. I'll let you know. Ellen says, Megami cables are wonderful, especially if you like to switch out hot and don't want annoying loud sparking noise. Just saying. Yeah, that's like I said, that's the end. And like I said, I swear, once you go with those Neutrik ends, the breaker cables that are Neutrik ends, man, once you do that, it's just, they're so freaking awesome. And I've never had one go bad, and I've been pretty abusive. And the only issue I've ever had is every once in a while, and I don't know why, you plug into a certain type of guitar and it just doesn't work. And but it has to be a strange kind of output jack on that guitar that causes the problem. So it's very rare, but I've had it happen a couple times. And again, none of my personal guitars, but reviewing guitars over the years, just, you get one guitar that comes in that's kind of, different than others, and you plug into it. And for some reason, the way it's angled, it just doesn't let it lock in and actually let the connection go through. But okay. Oh, Daryl's saying we can make the comment section subscriber only. I know I know I can do that. The problem is that there's 1,086 of you, and the subscription thing's kind of weird. I have an abnormally, YouTubers, you hear YouTubers all the time say this, like, 80% of you guys aren't subscribed to watch my videos. Well, actually, my videos, it's like 60, 70% are subscribers. I have a pretty loyal group. You guys are pretty crazy and loyal. It's really inspiring. Now, that also hinders growth because you want non-subscribers watching your stuff because that's new blood. I have a lot of churn where it's a lot of the same people watching a lot of my content, which is good. I prefer it that way. It's like, big enough to where there's a profitable edge to this, but not big enough to where I have to worry about like being some YouTube celeb thing that I just dread like the plague. So I've found this sweet spot for me that's working, which is, like I said, the bigger you get views, the more you attract people who are just not fans of what you do. And, it's not a big deal, but it's not the funnest thing to watch daily get pummeled about everything that you do and say. But that being said, there is a huge percentage of you that don't subscribe to channels, and for a ton of reasons. And I understand all of them. So I hate having the bots, but I'm sure I can filter them out some way. Like I said, I've killed off almost all the stuff on the main videos. We'll do it. And like Blackjack, here's a good example. Blackjack Guitar says 1,074 people watching, but only 290 likes. And again, this is the problem with this is this, the YouTube conditioning, right? Please like and subscribe. What I've learned about that is just watch. Likes and subscribes. You know, a like button is, I guess, it's going to make me feel good because if I get a lot of likes, I feel, you know, like, oh, okay, people liked what you did. But I know part of the problem is not that people don't want to hit like. It's that when you hit like, it goes in your liked videos and you're just sorting it into your pile. And same thing with subscriptions. You subscribe and you want to see some of my videos, but you don't want to be constantly barraged with, is that a word I just said? Barraged. You don't want to be berated. Sorry, you want to be berated with, constant reminders to watch videos. So, like I said, so I'm trying to find the happy medium. But yeah, if the bots do get too worse, we'll have to figure something out. But right now, I don't want to limit this. It's already tricky enough now to where it's hard, just to see all your guys' comments now. And then if I filter you guys down, it'll be even tougher. Don't Talk to Me says, I've been watching since about 100,000 subscribers. Thank you. I appreciate that. Like I said, what's crazy is I can, Don't Talk to Me is definitely a name. I remember a lot of you guys' names, just like, obviously I know Wanna Beetle, My Knees Hurt. Like I say, when I'm reading some of your names, Scott, of course, Scott Reynolds, I see names and I immediately go, okay, I know how long it's been since what videos I remember seeing those sign-ons and what you guys are saying. So it's crazy how we're interacting way more than you probably ever imagined. I'm more aware of you than you probably could ever imagine. I find it gets exciting for me. I watch other YouTube channels and I'll see you guys commenting in live shows or in the pre-recordeds, and I'll go, oh, I know that person. And I get excited for a second. I go, oh, I know this person. I know that person. So Music Therapy Laz says, hey, Phil, just curious, still like leather? Still like, yeah, I hope you like leather. Yeah. Music Therapy Laz made me this really beautiful wall stand for my guitar, and it's leather, and he made it, and he made a comment on one of the live shows. I made you a gift. I hope you like leather. And that's our little inside joke for those that remember that episode. We Tune Talk. No, We Tune to C. See, Talk, T-O-K, T-O-C is 2, T-O-C. We Tune to C says, hey, Phil, I'm torn between a Music Man Majesty 7, Enchanted Forest, or a Kiesel Vader 7 with the trim. What do I do? Well, they're differently priced, that's for sure. I would imagine the Majesty 7s, if you're looking at the American one, is a little pricier. I would say it's a real simple question of, for me, 7 strings are a different animal. They're all about the neck and how comfortable it is. And the Kiesel Vader 7 is a really good guitar. I really like it. I think I like the Majesty neck just a little bit more, but I like both those necks. If I was going to get one, I would, I'll tell you what, I think the Majesty is a hard guitar to beat. It's a magical instrument. If I was to get one, I wouldn't get either one. I'd get the JP12. That's the one I want. JP12 Music Man 7-string. I've been looking for one of those in a color I like more than the Majesty. But of the Kiesel Vader and the Majesty, I like both, but I think I'd like the Majesty a little bit more too as well. And I really like Kiesels. As you know, I play my Kiesels a lot, but the Majesty is kind of a really cool 7-string. I mean, you can't. Here's the difference. The difference is I think Kiesel makes a quality guitar, but John Petrucci has put a lot of time into making a great 7-string guitar. I think his is the best 7-string guitar on the market for me. For me. And that means whether you go with the JP series or you go to the Majesty series, I think they're the best 7-strings on the market. That neck is just fantastic. And I like a lot of the other necks that are on the market, including Kiesels and Ibanez and stuff. But the Majesty 7-string necks are they're all I ever need for a 7-string neck. So, and that's what I will eventually get one, a JP12. I want one in just a color that I want. Okay. Scott Grove says, looking for a 7-string Strat with 3 single coils. You know, it's funny, Scott. I really wanted one of those really, really bad. And it drives me crazy that no one makes one. And so in 2010, I think, Fender, the market was slow. I reached out to Fender and I said, hey, because I was a custom shop dealer, I said, hey, I want to order a custom shop 7-string Strat, just like Scott said. I want 3 single coils. And because that's what I wanted. I just wanted a 7-string Strat. And they're like, yeah, we can't do it. I go, why can't you do it? And they go, well, we've never made a 7-string before. And I go, are you kidding? You guys invented the 7-string. The very first 7-string electric guitar was a Fender. I don't know if you guys know that. The very first solid body, for those of you who are going to be historians, they're going to be like, no, the first 7-string was a hollow body. And yes, but the first solid body 7-string guitar was a Fender Strat developed by a guy named Maestro. It was before Steve Vai. Let's see if I can show you. And again, there's probably some obscure thing that happened, even more so than this, but at least this was notable because, I can probably find the ad. That's even what's crazier is there was an ad. Let's see. If I find it, I will share it. Okay, I can't find the ad, but here's what I can find. Here's him. This is Alex Gregory, the Maestro. And if we're looking right here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 strings. So he had a 7-string Strat. I want to say in 1986, or it might have been 1984. And they only made a couple prototypes, but they patented and trademarked the crap out of it. And then, of course, Steve Vai did the 7-string with Ibanez, and, of course, that took off. That was what landed. I wish I could find the ad, because the ad's kind of funny, because it was in Guitar World. That's how I remember it, because I'm a Guitar World freak. Before there was YouTube, I would just reread my Guitar World magazines over and over again. Anyway, so I asked Fender if they'd make me one, and they said no. And then I said, well, you made one before. And then they contacted me back a couple days later and they said, okay, we could do it. It's $7,000 dealer cost or some crazy number like that. And it'll take 18 months. And I go, oh, that's the I don't want to do it price, huh? And so Squier makes a 7-string that you can get. They made it back in early 2000s. The neck, though, is chunky as hell. It's so bad. It's like... so you have to sand them down. But if you can find a Squier at a good price, you can sand that neck down. For me, I think, and again, I'm just doing off the top of my head, I think if I was going to recommend a 7-string single coil Strat guitar that's reasonable but quality, would be the Kiesel Delos, which is their version basically of a Strat. And you get the Delos and you can get it in 7-string and the neck won't be too chunky. And you can order it 3 single coils. And then... that's what I would be looking at if you're going to go that route. Some comments about Guitar World porn. That's awesome. Guitar World porn under the bed. I just remember I would reread Guitar World so many times, every issue. And then one day there was a YouTube video to watch, and like everybody, I was like, "Oh, this is better. I can watch video stuff," and it was just cool. Steven says, "How many guitarists, or what percentage of guitarists do you think only have one guitar?" I bet you it's less than 1%. I mean, it depends. I mean, if we're going to count beginners and stuff, but we're talking about people who can actually play guitar to some degree, right? So let's set up a basic competency level of, okay, they can play a couple songs. Let's actually break it down to they play at least 2 to 3 days a week, and they can actually play a variety of songs and know some chords and scales. And, let's just put them as medium hobbyist, player. I would say it'd be less than 1% will only have one guitar. Very, very few. And I would say, and I would actually imagine, I would actually better than that, Stephen. I would say that if I was going to guess how many guitar players out there in the world only have one guitar, I would guess that it's not how many that only have one guitar. I would bet that 80% or higher of those guitars, the one guitar is an acoustic. You almost very rarely meet anybody with one electric guitar. You always meet somebody with one acoustic guitar. That's really common. So, and it's for a ton of reasons, but that's the basic thing I see. Okay. I watch Stuff 6 says the people who have only one guitar have it in the corner of the closet. I would say yes, that would be, I will say that would be the exact sentiment I would say as well too, for sure. Okay. Guys, a lot of comments about my yellow shirt, huh? You need this yellow shirt to come back? So you know, I'm still working on the hat thing here. I have different versions. This is another prototype version here. Let me look at my little ring on my head. Look at that. This was a version she was working on, the Geeky Stuff. The logoing needs to go lower and not at the angle, smaller. So stuff like that. But like I said, just to let you know, we are working on stuff. She has different hats that she's making and I'm working on. So one day there'll be a logo on the hat so somebody doesn't have to lose their mind. Okay. Jonathan said 19 guitars trying to get down to 3. Yeah, it's tough. I've always said this. It's harder to go back down. I've always said this. It's when you get guitars, it's harder. If you get 10 guitars, it's hard to go back down to 5. If you get 20, it's hard to go back down to 10. If you buy more expensive guitars, it's hard to go down in lower price guitars. It's just because, like I said, you get to some point, everything becomes like unless some exterior forces come into play, right? Which is like, you need rent. That always helps get rid of some guitars. What I learned selling guitars to people for many years was that they sell a guitar in their mind. They're like, okay, I'm gonna sell 5 of my guitars. I'm gonna go back from 10 to 5. They sell them, the money goes in the bank. And if you don't spend that money, if it doesn't go to bills or tires or something, you're just gonna go buy more guitars. So there you go. That's my 2 cents. It's a famous last words. I'm gonna get rid of my guitar collection. Okay, we have Thunder Falcon says, finding Phil's channel has changed my guitar journey. I hope for the better. I think that's what you mean, but I appreciate that. And Mike says, are you planning on reviewing the Epiphone Casino? Really enjoy the show. Keep it up. I don't have any plans to review the Epiphone Casino, but I can, obviously. The Epiphones and Squiers are definitely, they do great. You guys really interact with those really well and you guys really like them. I don't have any relationships with either one of those companies. So every single one has always been either I purchased it or if I got lucky, like I got lucky with the 1959 Les Paul, Sweetwater had basically one to send out and we could do a video on, and that really worked out for me. But it's really not a big deal because it's nice to get those guitars on there because you guys will actually interact with them well. So Casino would be one. Thank you for mentioning it because that I might have an opportunity when I'm at Sweetwater next week. Maybe I'll grab one of those. Carlos says, been sub since 12,000 subs. Wow. Been an amazing ride. Great content. Finally, new guitar day. My Epiphone Brendan Smalls Explorer today. Congratulations on new guitar day. So, and then Richard says, Oh, I'm thinking of picking up a baritone guitar, and I'm leaning towards a Squier Telecaster. Anything else I think should be checking out? Baritone guitars. I'm not a huge fan of baritone guitars, and why I mean that is I've owned a bunch, and more than a little. I had the Dane Electro one. I've had the Paul Reed Smith one. I had a Schecter one. And in my head, it's one of those guitars, like the 12 string. In fact, that's what's kind of boring. You think you want one 12 string or one baritone. But what I realized for me is I get those guitars, I play them, and then I just never play them again. That's not to discourage you from doing it. In fact, I think that's part of your journey is to try these things. I will tell you this. For a baritone, you're thinking the right way. Like Squier Telecaster is a great way to go. More affordable price. I think one of my favorite baritones is the Paul Reed Smith one. I think the quality on that one's really good, but nothing wrong with the Squier Telecaster. It's a great way to go as a quality sounding instrument, and it's fun. They're fun, and I think in the right hands, the right player that likes the right music, you can do a lot with it. So. Okay. Oh, Carl went from 25 guitars to 4 guitars. Congratulations. I think that's good. I don't know. I'm going to say it's good. Plaster Populous says, Phil, how do you think my P90, I got to talk about my own thing. P90 pickups would work with a baritone. Would they work well with the baritone? Yes, they would. My P90s are classic P90s. In other words, I've replicated them off of one of my favorite sets of P90s. And so, my single coils, which are out of stock, are, I'm going to say, unique. It came from a unique problem that I had, and I was interested in trying to solving it. And I came up with this idea, and I tried a ton of them. And not even a joke. I'd like to say, I did 10 prototypes. In fact, I did so many prototypes of those pickups that I don't think there's a single video of my shop on YouTube that you can't find at least one of the prototypes laying. So they're everywhere in that shop. There's got to be 30, 40 of them just laying around where I've just been working on them. The reason I tell you that is that's what the single coil set is for me. It's something I specifically was looking for, and that's what I have in my main Strat. The P90s that I have and the humbuckers, the Northern Lights I make. The Northern Lights pickups actually are a set of pickups that a friend of mine who owns a pickup company made for me years ago. And I fell in love, and I had to make me another set. And then what happened was he decided there's no money in pickup making. Okay. Because he had a legit job making good money, and spending time he never saw a world where he could quit his job and make pickups. And he was sick of kind of spending his free time making pickups. So he stopped, which really made it tough for me because I really wanted some more sets. So what happened was I convinced him to let me come down, and he shows me, and we work out how to make the pickups. So we made some. I made a bunch, and he showed me how to make them. And then I made a bunch, and I was happy, and I put them in my guitars. And then when I did the Great Guitar Build-Off, I decided, okay, to do something special, I'll make a set for that guitar, and I put them in the guitar. And the person who got the guitar was very excited and liked them, and then a lot of you guys reached out, and that's where that came from. So those are a recreation of a pickup that I like from somebody else. So I replicated it down to the T. And so, I even contacted him well before I even made the first prototype to sell, and said, hey, you want to do some kind of deal where and he's like, no, man, I don't want to ever do that again. And so, I think he was probably, I think it's a shame. I think his talent was way above, what he needed to be. But unfortunately, I see his point. He needs to do that. The P90 is the same thing. I just I found a P90 set that I liked, and I wanted to recreate it. So I recreated it, which is a vintage set. So that's what they are. That's why I've had really good luck with the pickups, because I've had the benefit of reviewing so many damn pickups that I kind of know where the sweet spot is if you're looking for the average person to find the right spot. you don't want something that's too bright, too bassy, too punchy, right? Everybody's looking for this like Goldilocks thing. Okay. Suspicious Scissors says, ERT 335 has fret sprout. How do you grind stainless? Well, first of all, I'm really shocked to see it has fret sprout. You know, I had a crazy thing happen to the ERT Les Paul that I did. I left it in my shop, and then a couple days ago, I must have done something. I never, I want to say never, but this has never happened before. But I hadn't gone in the shop in 3 days, and I didn't know. But apparently, something tripped a breaker on the air conditioning unit, and so I walked in, I opened the door, and it had to be 110 in there. It was just so hot. And I was like, oh no. And the only guitar in there was the ERT. And I thought, okay. And it didn't shrink. The neck didn't shrink enough for the frets to pop out because of the way they round them off too shallow into the fretboard. So I'm really shocked to hear that because the ones I've seen have been really, really shallow. So it's shocking, but not impossible, just shocking. That being said, no, you don't need any special tools. I would get the StewMac crowning file. Or no, sorry, StewMac fret in dress file. That's all you'll need. Depending on how much sprout you have. I mean, you could probably do it with sandpaper too. Do 400 grit or something like that. But I would definitely, I recommend that tool so much. It's worth its weight. It's like probably $20 shipped or something. I don't know. It's ridiculous because it's a ridiculous price, and then of course they have a crazy shipping thing. So if you can find a couple of things to smooth it over the shipping and make it worthwhile, but that's a great tool. If there was only one tool I recommend it at StewMac, it's the fret in dress file. I've used it in so many videos. I use it everywhere. It works really, really, really fast. And you don't have to worry about, if you are at home working on frets, you don't have to worry about stainless steel frets. They'll cause, let's argue it this way. Let's say you work on a nickel silver fret and your files, let's say they wear down if you do 100 fret jobs. Then my guess would be, I'd love to say half, but it's probably less than that. You'd probably get 40 fret jobs out of that same tool out of stainless steel. So if you do one stainless steel set, if you work on that, it's not the end of your files. It's not the end of anything. It's just going to wear them down like if you did multiples of regular nickel silver. So there's no real special tools you need for stainless steel if you're doing it at that level. If you're going to do it every day professionally, you definitely want to up the game, make sure you have the right stuff, because like I said, your retooling costs will be expensive replacing stuff. Also, on that note, most of the shops I go into that use stainless steel, they still don't use special tools. They still use the same stuff everybody else is using. Okay, let's do, I think we got one more question. Let's do 2 more and we'll call it since we're at the end. Where are we at? Let's do this. We have Michael who says, hey Phil, any thoughts around the Filtertron pickups? Okay. Have a great Father's Day. I like Filtertron pickups. I prefer TV Jones pickups. I like his quality of pickups. I did some comparison of Filtertron pickups, and what I can tell you is, shockingly, again, kind of like a P90 design, the way the Filtertron pickups are made, you can actually make and buy, I shouldn't say make, you can buy inexpensive Filtertron pickups that sound really, really good. Okay, I'm trying to get back to my main screen. So that's one of the things that's really nice about Filtertron pickups is I bought a set off of, I don't know if it was eBay or Amazon, but I bought a set of Filtertron pickups that was like $30 for the set, maybe $40. Really inexpensive. Just curious to see how they compared. Very good pickups. I was very shocked. So I had never made a set of Filtertron pickups, so of course that's what I use as a template to take apart and kind of learn about them. I was very reminiscent to my very first experience years and years ago messing with P90s, where it's like, okay, this is a very basic concept pickup. Some pickups are actually way more complicated than you give them credit for, but some pickups are really basic, and the Filtertron pickups not really out of touch with that. To where, but I like TV Jones. That being said, if you got the money, go TV Jones. If you don't, in fact, how I feel is if you don't have money for TV Jones, I would just go with inexpensive Filtertron pickups from Guitar Fetish or from eBay or whatever. I think it'd be fine. I know Seymour Duncan's starting to make some now. I haven't tried them. I have no experience with those. By the way, you can't hear it because the way my mic's positioned, but this is just mostly for the people, the members and the patrons. The whole time I'm talking right now, all I can hear is the tape guns going, like the tape strips of tape guns going. The tape guns going because they're packing up bases. So you guys know what that means, but it's just funny because I don't think you guys can hear it. But if you hear a lot of tearing sounds, like clothes or paper being torn, it's the tape guns going for taping up bases. Creston says, hey Phil, been watching for a while, love the channel, just got a Squier Bullet Tele, very impressed with the fit and finish on such a low cost guitar. Thanks for all you do, sharpen my axe on the channel. Yeah, well, like I said, inexpensive guitars, the thing I always focus on is it's not that they don't make great guitars. They make fantastic guitars at those price points. It's just the lower the price of the guitar, the more common it is to see defects, which is why I always kind of point out when it's not, that's the real trick, right? The real trick is you can buy a Squier or an off-brand guitar that's not Squier, of course, and you can get a great guitar, but when they make inexpensive guitars, one thing they do is I told you, I love the term fast guitars. They make them fast, right? Everything's about how fast can you make this guitar. And that's true in $4,000 guitars, by the way, too. How fast can you make them? But obviously they can spend more time. The more the guitar costs, the more time you can physically spend with it. And some of that time you can spend is QC time, quality assurance time, right? I always found this way, and I learned that in the weirdest way. When we used to sell Squier Affinities, we would have to pull out like 20 out of a box, 20 out of boxes. And it would be really crazy because you would pull 20 out and 2 or 3 were just amazing. In fact, epic, like better than made in Mexico, maybe as good as American, maybe better. And then 5 were okay and 3 were really crappy. And you're like, all right. And then you'd pull out another 20 and the same thing. And that's what you kind of learned. And so that's the thing that happens. And that's why I said, so you can find fantastic guitars at those price points for sure. Especially if you get lucky enough to try it before you buy it. You can pick it up and play it and be fantastic. Sometimes it gets brought up to me. A customer of mine named Seth, who became a friend, and he's a friend, he bought high-end guitars, and one day he came in for lessons in my store, and there was a Squier Bullet. Might have been an Affinity, but I thought it was a Bullet. And he picked it up, and he's like, this guitar's amazing. And I said, I know, I was going through all the guitars the other day, and I go, I think that was the best guitar in the store. And he bought it. And to this day, anytime I've ever bumped into him, he's always like, man, that Squier Bullet is amazing. And I go, isn't that funny? That's just like that guitar just sticks out, that is being amazing. So, yeah. HK says Squier really surprises me how good they are. Of course, like I said, the reality is they're going to make these guitars with CNC machines and they can make them really good. And I think we're seeing that. That's how I feel about. That's why, like I said, I try to space the channel out with expensive guitars, then inexpensive guitars, to give you guys the biggest, kind of options out there, the most options out there, because I think you can have a great guitar at any price point now. I think it's just about discovering what speaks to you. And that's kind of why I reformatted the deep dive format to the way it works now, is to find out, so you guys can get quick information and figure out what works best for you, what inspires you. Because at the end of the day, for me, it's never the quality of the guitar that speaks to me. It's just something else. It's just how it feels and how it sounds. Yeah. Lunamatic says, with Squiers, you have to do your own QC and play a bunch of them. Yeah, you can. I mean, that's exactly what I'm getting at. Yeah, the less the guitar costs, the more you have to you realize you're taking the chance. But what's great now is you can take that chance. If you can't get one and touch one first, you just buy from a credible retailer that can return it. I don't know how to say this name. Mox Department says, what's the worst high-cost guitar you bought? It was the Gibson RO that I bought this year. And that guitar was, I keep telling people it was $7,000. I think it was $6,300. It was really like this. I had sold a bunch of guitars at the height, cashed in a little bit, I should say. And was going down a journey that really crashed really fast, which was, I was like, okay, maybe what I should do is buy 4 or 5 really expensive exotic guitars that I really always kind of like, maybe I wanted these, and then get rid of everything pretty much, because I'm always trying new guitars every week for the channel. So it was always like, that becomes part of this, what guitars do I really want to have when I'm not doing reviews or videos or stuff like that. So I bought that guitar, and it was a total letdown. And the reason it was a letdown was exactly what I said in that video. Here's a Gibson Classic, and it was better. It was better. And I can tell you that just my opinion. And again, that's all I can give you is that Gibson was a letdown. The Paul Smith Hollow Body 2 that I bought during 2020, during COVID, the height of COVID, for my birthday, was very expensive and is good, but it still to this day doesn't sing to me as like the best guitar I own by any means. And that kind of got that out of my system. I was kind of like, okay, I'm done with those kind of price guitars. But I will tell you, I have a guitar to review right now. I don't know if I want to give up the whole thing. Let me tell you, I have a rather expensive Fender guitar that I'm reviewing, and it's got to be the worst fretwork I've come across on the channel so far, and was shocked to me. And it's brand new. It's brand new, and I'm a little shocked by that. Everything else though, fantastic. I mean, it was like literally like it was one of those things, kind of like the RO. Like, I can't believe they just let this out. Why did they not address this? They had to have known something was going to go wacky with it. So that's the thing. And also keep in mind too, to answer that question even further and kind of really hone it down, is I have found the biggest disappointments in guitars are also part of you. You're part of the equation. I'm part of the equation. You're part of the equation when you're doing buying a guitar. I find whenever I push the financial limits, which by that way, that guitar was way off the financial limits of what was reasonable for me to spend. Whenever I spend the high end of my financial limits, the more I'm going to scrutinize the guitar for sure, but the more that when something's not right, it really emotionally affects you. You're like, man, I was hoping not to have these kind of problems. And I've said this a long time ago. It's been a while since I've said this, but part of my problem with the guitars is my favorite guitars to play are reasonably priced instruments that I own and have had for years. And so they become the bar that you have to beat that. And it really gets tough, and I think all of you can kind of relate to this. If you have a guitar that you paid $500 for, or $200 for, or $800, let's just throw those prices out, and you love it, and you buy a guitar that's double the price of that guitar, you don't love it twice as much, it, like I said, that's the bar. You're like, wow, this guitar costs twice as much, and I don't like it as much as this one. That's really tough. Well, one of my favorite guitars, to this day, quality for playing is my Paul Smith Mira core guitar, which I've had since the day the channel. I had it the day this channel started, just like my Copper Strat, which is behind me. Had it the day the channel started. I had a bunch of these guitars I had it the day the channel started, and those guitars, especially that Mira, I think I paid $800 for that Mira, and I made it pay closer to $900, and that's the problem. I'm not saying it's my best guitar. I'm just saying that I'm fine with it. If that was my only guitar, I'd be fine with it. So it's hard to go, oh yeah, a guitar that's $1,800 is you want to be twice as good. So that's the kind of thing. Actually, I had a reverse. Actually, since I'm doing, I should tell you about the Copper Strat. The Copper Strat, part of the reason you don't see it so much is I got the new Copper Kiesel. And part of the equation that's messed up is the Kiesel cost less than half of what the custom shop Fender Strat cost. And so even though I've had the Copper Strat forever, you keep seeing me play the Kiesel because of that reason. I kind of feel like for a lot less money, I feel like this is just as good, if not better, guitar. So I don't know. That's just my thoughts. Okay, on that note, I'm going to let you guys go. But since you guys are all hanging out to the end, I'll tell you the announcement. Next Friday, the live show should be at the same time, 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, but it will be in Indiana. So when the Sweetwater guys allowed me or invited me to come out to the campus to check out things, one of the things they asked was, they said, hey, we know you do this QA podcast thing. They said, would you mind doing it from our facility? not as like anything different than this, just the background will be different, but I'll be doing it from there. So hopefully everything goes well. And I'm hoping to do content there, of course, but also, having content come out as I'm there. Also, like I said, if you guys are interested in anything, let me know since I'm there. I'm going to be doing something with the 55-point inspection. Obviously, that's the main reason I'm going there, is to do something, to explore. And I don't want to say investigate. That sounds so, not what I'm doing. But I'm there to explore the 55-point inspection and give you guys as much information as I can find out about it, to find out what I want to create a reasonable expectation for myself and you guys on what it is they're even doing. Is it a setup? Is it an inspection? Is it nothing? What is it? What will they share with us? And I think they're going to share with us pretty good. One of the things I will tell you, and when you look forward to when I do that video, is one of the things I asked them up front as a question was, could they tell me how much it costs to do a 55-point inspection? And they gave me the number, and I have it, so I will do it. I will talk about it in that video. I asked them, I said, hey, if it's real, this is what I said, I'll just let you know, because this is a teaser, right? It's the end of the show, a teaser. I said, if the 55-point inspection is real, and you're a big corporation, that means it has a cost. What's the cost? Because you could tell me all day that you do it and you don't do it. But if it has a cost, if you have to actually, expense, and they actually gave me not only the cost of what it costs to do the inspection, but what it costs to actually take real photos of the guitars. They broke it down to guitar. They know what it costs. So, and yes, and somebody says in labor. Yes, in labor, because that's the whole point, right? If somebody's doing something, right? You guys all have jobs. You get paid. Well, not all of you have jobs. Some of you guys have jobs. If you have a job, you get paid. Your company it's an expense, and so it's a fact. So what the fact is, what is the expense of doing this, and that will tell me how real it is or not, right? And they gave me the expense, which is great. So I'll put that in the video too. So like I said, we're off to a good start of getting real information about what this is, and maybe helping you guys figure out if it's worth, making this decision to buy from them for those things. All right, guys. As always, I want to thank you so much for hanging out this Friday. I will see you next Friday. I hope you guys have a great weekend. And for the fathers, I hope you guys have a great Father's Day. And know your gear.